Oh, good. Okay, great. Jim Jackson, man, dude, thank you so much for joining me here. I know you're
My
very, very
pleasure.
busy. Really, really cool of you to do. So excited to talk to you. I've been an enormous Flyers fan all my life. I tell anyone, anytime I talk about sports to anyone, I always tell everyone my first like love was the Philadelphia Flyers. I grew up watching, Rod Brindamore, Lindros, Renberg, and man, like my dad would take me to the games, and I always loved them. And you're such a staple of the Flyers organization. So I'm just so excited to have you here.
My pleasure. It's weird because when I first got here, people would say I grew up a Flyers fan watching Clark and Barber and Perrant. And then I worked through a phase where I grew up watching Kerr and Poulin and Prop and Ekstall and Lindbergh. And then now it's I grew up watching Lindros and Renberg. I realize I've been here a long time, but my pleasure being here.
Yeah, man. So you talk about there's different generations of Flyers players, right? All really good generations to grow up watching. What are the kids in 20 years going to say?
They're going to say I grew up watching Michkov and Luchenko and Bonk and I don't know who in net.
I
That's the
know.
thing we got to figure out who's going to be the goaltender that they watch that's going to carry the Flyers to the next level. That's a big question. I'm hoping it's Sam Harrison. I love Sam Harrison as a player in terms of his approach. He's inflappable. He's just unflappable. He's able to put bad things behind him. Just hasn't been able to show us he can play consistently at a number one level for an entire season. He has shown us he can do it in stretches, but it's possible that they'll grow up saying that I watched Sam Harrison. It might be another goalie, but somebody will get this team to the next level here over the next couple of years.
Yeah, he always seemed like he was a great backup goalie. Like he's a great backup goalie, and then when they give him that role of every night goalie, it kind of seems like he's kind of hit or miss. But yeah, I agree. I like him a lot too. So I want to rewind a little bit. You said when you first got here, where are you from originally?
Originally from upstate New York, which is it's basically Utica, which is not far from Syracuse. If people know where Syracuse is, it's about 45 minutes east of there. And I grew up and wanted to be an announcer, so I went to Syracuse and then went back to Utica and worked for 5 or 6 years and did some AHL hockey there. And I got the Flyers job off of that job in 1993, and I've been here ever since.
Were you a Buffalo Sabres fan growing up?
I was not. I was a Rangers fan growing up, hated the Flyers. My father detested the Flyers. In particular, couldn't stand Gary Dornhofer, who was always in that Jockeman's crease. Bobby Clark, who he said was the cheapest player in hockey. Dave Schultz, who beat up Dale Rolfe. And, Horace Kindrich, all these guys who I ended up being, Horace Kindrich did my life insurance. Bill Clement and Gary Dornhofer were broadcast partners. Dave Schultz used to have the limo service, which drove us to our local games. Bob Clark, I lived in his house for the first 2 or 3 months I was down here. And then, of course, became the GM and my boss, and on and on and on with all those guys that I used to root against as a kid. But my father had passed away when I was pretty young, before I actually even did AHL hockey. But I remember when I got the job down here, I kind of looked up and said, "You got to forgive me, Dad. You got to go where the bread gets buttered."
Yep. Well, you said that right. Is it safe to say you're a Flyers fan now?
Oh yeah, I'm thoroughly into the Flyers. I obviously wrote a book in '04 about the bullies and basically their lives since. And I've gotten to know obviously all the great '80s Flyers through events, golf tournaments, and such, and have been with the team since the '90s. So even though I haven't been here since the beginning, I kind of feel like I have, because I've done a lot of research and have done a lot of talking to some of the players from the early years and from the '80s. So yeah, I feel not like an original Flyer by any stretch, but I certainly have been here now long enough to know all the different eras of Flyers hockey pretty well, and to certainly live through more than half now of their history. So yeah, definitely bleeding orange and black at this point. In fact, orange has been with me. The high school I went to was orange and blue, the New York Mills Marauders. Then went to Syracuse, obviously orange, and now with the Flyers. So orange has followed me.
That suits you well.
I should have worn orange instead of maroon, I guess. But
Oh, good. I got this gritty shirt just for you.
yeah, I
Just
see
for
that.
the interview. Yep.
Looks good.
Yeah, it's actually textured, believe it or not. I got it from Fanatics.
Nice.
Yeah. So you say you knew you wanted to be a broadcaster. That's something I'm fascinated about. Is how did you discover that you could just describe things that were happening in real time extremely accurately?
Well, I mean, as with most of us, it started with me wanting to play. I played Little League and I played Pop Warner football. What was Biddy basketball is what it was called up in upstate New York. Never played any hockey competitively because there was no hockey at my high school. So, of course, in my grand, big thinking way, I said, well, if there's no high school hockey, why bother playing it? Although I did play at a rink up the street. A kid used to have a rink back then. You could have a rink all year long in your backyard. And yeah, so I played a lot for fun, but organized it was baseball and football and basketball. But I quickly realized, Steve, that there was no chance for me to get anywhere near where I wanted to be with my athletic ability. And my father was really the one who said, listen, when we are watching sporting events, and he was the guy who got me involved in sports. He was a big sports fan, but he said, when we're watching sports events, you're always talking. Why don't you become a broadcaster? That was like when I was probably 10, 11, 12 years old. And so from that point on, it became my goal, and getting to Syracuse was an obvious goal. So I had to get my grades up to get into Newhouse, and I did that. And once you go to Syracuse, my final plan might have been to maybe be the sports director at WIBX in Utica, New York when I was in high school. But after about 2 months at Syracuse, I wanted to be president of CBS Sports. Your ambition level changed when you're around all those kids from all over the country, and especially New York City. So Syracuse was great. It really pushed me, and I went 110 miles an hour the whole time I was there, basically with getting a job in this business in mind. And thankfully, breaks fell my way, and here I am. And I've been here 32 years and have no regrets at all professionally. It's just been a great run.
Well, it's been great to listen to you all this time. I mean, I
appreciate that.
I don't remember anyone else. So
I'm much better when they win, though. So I haven't been as good here lately.
Well, speaking of which, right, it looked like right at the 2019-2020 season, it looked like there was some room for optimism, right? They were playing really good. I thought they should have won that second series against, who was it, the Canadians they lost to?
They beat the Canadians, they lost.
Right. So I mean they were right there. And then it seemed like things just kind of fell apart after that. Is there a reason for optimism again now? Like you have Jonesy in there since then, or was Jonesy in there before that?
He was broadcasting then.
He was broadcasting then, right? So after that, like that was a tough loss for me. That second round loss, and then the following year they come back and they were just like flat. Like it didn't look like the same team as the 2019-2020.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the next year we played with empty seats. It was such a strange season. It's hard even to think about the bubble and the playoff run that one you're talking about. We did the first round from what is now Xfinity Mobile Arena. I have to say that, so I keep saying it the right way. But from what was then the Wells Fargo Center, and it was so weird doing games from one arena that were taking place up in Toronto, and it never felt really like the Stanley Cup playoffs. They won. Carter Hart was tremendous in that series against the Canadians. The Islanders series, I'm surprised you thought they should have won. They won 3 overtime games just to get it to 7. The Islanders were definitely the better team, but they gave it a run, got to a game 7 and lost. But more to the point was how they played before the pandemic hit, which from mid-November to when the pandemic hit in early March, they had the second best record, or second most points at least, in the NHL. I mean, that's a long stretch. That's not just a streak. That's 3.5 months. So they were good. And yeah, they were young. So they had a young goalie. There was reason for optimism. Where it went all bad is hard to. I mean, they've had a lot of things go against them, Steve, and some brought on by their own decisions. But when you think about you can go all the way back to the Bobrovsky trade to when this started to maybe go the wrong way. But I mean, you can go right on through with so many things since Pronger gets hurt. Weber doesn't sign the offer sheet. If Shea Weber signs that offer sheet and they have a stud defenseman through all those years, we could be talking about a team that already has another cup. Nolan Patrick, that doesn't go well. Ryan Ellis, Cutter Gauthier, now Carter Hart. I mean, there's just so many things that have big things. I mean, these are not fourth line players we're talking about that it just went against them, that they just haven't been able to completely recover. The current management has told us right from day one what the MO was, and they have followed it. And I think that's all the fans wanted. I think for a little while, and I have a lot of respect for Chuck Fletcher, a good human being and a guy who's obviously been in the business his entire life. So I'm not going to sit here and bash him, but there was a stretch during his reign when other leaders before Dan Hilferty got there, where I think the messaging got a little bit mixed up. We'd hear rebuild, we'd hear aggressive retool, we'd hear all these terms. And then in the middle of an aggressive retool, they don't go try to sign Johnny Gaudreau. And it was like, I'm not sure what they're doing. And so I think the fans got upset with that. The one thing you can say about the current regime is in their 2+ years now, they are absolutely sticking to their game plan. They're building for the future, trying to stay competitive now, but building for the future. And now their stockpile of prospects is beginning to climb. They're into the top 10 now in the NHL, and that's with Michkov not even part of that. He's already on the team. It's going to get good, Steve. It really is. They're doing it the right way, and we just have to be patient with it. We went through a rebuild under Ron Hextall. The problem is the drafting just didn't get it done. So last year, or this past draft, so vital. We'll see how it goes. But the Flyers have to draft well. A rebuild doesn't work unless you draft well, sign good free agents, and make good trades. And the Flyers just didn't draft well enough, I think, during the teens and so forth to keep that particular rebuild going. They missed on Rubtsov. They missed on Patrick. They missed on a couple other first-round picks, and made some deals where they lost first-round picks, and it just didn't pan out for them. But the bottom line is this group, they have stockpiled picks. They have made it so they have multiple picks in most years in the first round or up high. And so now we see if that comes to fruition. And the other area this regime has really talked about, which the Flyers have, quite frankly, failed over the last decade or so, is development. So you make the picks, and now you got to develop the players. And it's too early in this regime's tenure to see if that's working yet. We'll see if some of these picks over the last 3 or 4. I mean, Alex Bump certainly is a promising. He was not one of their picks. He was a 5th-round pick. But to me, this kid looks like a real player. We'll see. I might be jumping the gun, but that would be because of their development, because he was a 5th-round pick, and now he might become an NHL player. Anytime a 5th-round pick emerges to that point, maybe even being a top 6 NHL player, then your development's doing something. So I think they've really stressed that, and we'll begin to see the fruits of that labor over the next 2-3 years with some of these picks they've made and how they develop.
How do you like their draft picks from this past year? It looked like they were.
Well, I like them,
drafted for size,
Steve,
right?
Yeah, I mean, again, the one thing about drafts in all sports, but particularly the NHL, where I think some of these draft nicks, for lack of a better term, see even less of these players than, let's say, NFL draft nicks or basketball draft nicks. Now, baseball is another one where they may not see a whole lot of these picks, but in hockey, I mean, a lot of these people who have their mock drafts see a couple of YouTube clips of a guy and make their opinion on him. The Flyers have scouted these guys for years. They've interviewed them. They've interviewed their coaches, their teammates. They've done research, and so I'm going to trust them. But when you get that many picks, that high in the draft, you should hit on some of them. Certainly, you need to hit on the first one, Martone. Nesbitt's going to be quite interesting to see. They traded up to get him. They really like him. I'll tell you, what I saw in development camp, I think they might have hit a home run with that kid. If he gets his skating, it's a big if. Skating is very important. But if he becomes just an average skater, he's going to be a player. And then all those second-round picks really look good to me. So, the one didn't play. The defenseman was still injured. But some of those guys really look good. So, I at this point, it looks great, but I think every team will tell you right now, if you asked an announcer for every team in the NHL, what'd you think of their draft in 2025? They're probably all saying, yeah, they got some sleepers. It really looks good. So it's way too early. You can't really analyze drafts until several years down the road, but they took some swings and we'll see if they connected.
So going back to what you were saying about the Carter Hart situation. Now, on Facebook, I don't know. It doesn't look like anything trustworthy, but there's all these like rumors like, oh, the Flyers are looking to get Carter Hart back in the building if he's reinstated. Do you have any knowledge of that being the case? Or like, oh, the Flyers considering that? Are they looking into bringing Carter Hart back? And if so, like, is that a good idea?
No knowledge at all. One thing I will tell you about Keith Jones, everyone comes to me saying, what's the scoop? You worked with him for 17 years. He doesn't say anything. We used to text all the time. I might text him twice or three times every 3 or 4 months now, and it's usually about something not having to do with hockey, or at least not having to do with current hockey. Might have to do with something we relate to from our time together, but nothing that has to do with the current 20, 25, 26 Flyers. So I have no knowledge. I would it's a tough question, Steve. From a hockey standpoint, if it was just hockey, absolutely, they need to investigate it, I think, because Carter Hart's a potential number one goalie, and the Flyers right now aren't 100% sure they have a number one goalie. They're hoping it's Sam Ersson. They're hoping that Vladar is a good support for Sam, and it really becomes a good tandem. They have some good prospects coming, but right now, as we sit here right now, they don't know for sure whether they have a number one goalie, and you got to have a number one goalie to get to where you want to get to. And Carter Hart's proven he can be at least a number one goalie, if not a really good number one goalie. So I would think they'd have to investigate it. But as we know, this is not just a hockey matter. A lot has come out through the trial. Carter made mistakes, and some of those mistakes are probably mistakes that some fans can't forgive him for. And that's justifiable. Other fans might be able to forgive him. I guess from a Flyers standpoint, they have to weigh whether the negativity socially or from a standpoint of a fan reaction balances with what he could do for the team. And those decisions are made by guys like Keith Jones, making much more than me now. They get the big bucks. Those are tough questions. If you pin me up against the wall and said, if you're the GM, what do you do? It's one that I would have to consult with a lot of different people before I'd give you an answer, because it's not easy. There's some people that are really upset with what he did, and they have every right to be. And you don't want to alienate a fan base, and you also have to show your proper social discipline. I mean, is it correct to give these guys a second chance? Well, they are innocent. They were acquitted. So from a legal standpoint, yes, but the court of public opinion is a whole nother case, and that could be a little bit more difficult. But I have no inside information. I think the fact that they went out and signed Vladar shows they have no confidence that Carter's even going to be available, anytime soon. The league has to rule anyhow, so there's really no reason to speculate until the league makes these guys all available again.
That's really unfair to the Flyers, I think, just to the organization that they're in that position where it's like.
I will say this: all of these players, and Carter was the best of the bunch, a number one goalie. I do agree with you that the league has to know that the players were pretty much had to let their contracts end because of what was going on. So I think they should all be given, the teams that had the rights to these players should be given at least some kind of
First dibs.
time frame,
Yeah.
yes, to re-sign these players. Because it's unfair to say, well, you let them go. The league was pretty much giving the teams that signal and what these guys were going to court. How could you sign them? So I think they should. I don't know as if they will. It's going to be very interesting to see how that is handled from a league perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. Very, very interesting. You talk about Jonesy a little bit, and so after the 2020, 2021 season, where, like you said, there was no fans in the stands. I actually forgot about that, to be honest with you, until you just mentioned it. But I stopped watching the Flyers. I turned it off for a while. They hire Keith Jones as president, and then I think it was maybe Netflix put out a very short documentary about this, like, or they put out some type of a documentary, a short one, on like the new hierarchy of the Flyers, and they introduced Keith Jones, and they talked about how they might have made some small modifications to the logo or center ice, and they wanted to kind of clash like old style Flyers with new style Flyers. To that point, like, so with that kind of idea in mind, do you think the Kate Smith statue will ever return, or her rendition of the God Bless America?
To first of all say, I think that was a Flyers social media production. They've won a gazillion Emmys, so you might confuse them with Netflix productions. Yeah. That good. As far as Kate Smith, I mean, personally, I'm not. I mean, Kate Smith was banned because she sang a song written by a black man, I believe, and it was said to be racist, and it was, if you look at it in the context of now. But if we start judging things now based on things that came out in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, I mean, that's really difficult. I mean, the whole social standard, everything has changed now. With current national leadership, it's kind of changing back the other way. But the bottom line is, I didn't think it was necessarily fair when it happened. Mm-hmm. So if I'm the president of the Flyers, I think it's something worth investigating for sure. Do I know what the Flyers are doing now? I have no idea. I do know that Dan Hilferty, Keith Jones, Danny Briere are all, and Rick Tocchet for that matter, are all very aware, obviously, and many, all three of the four of them were intricately involved in the history of the Flyers and want to honor that history without being stuck in it. So it really depends on how that goes. I will say this, being at the arena, and obviously I'm old, but I was not here when Kate sang in person. But when they would play the recording with Kate and Lauren, the doo-wop, doing the duo thing, that building was electric. I mean, Lauren is tremendous just singing the national anthem. Mm-hmm. The place is electric, but there was just extra little juice when it was God Bless America. And the statue, I mean, I don't know. There's such a controversy with statues in this country right now.
That was a crazy time.
I just think that I think it would be nice. I think they might want to wait for the perfect moment to do it, which might be a big game, a playoff game, who knows, whatever. But I do think we're a little bit past that cancel culture, maybe too far in some areas. But I think that maybe we're getting to the point where that could be resurrected. But again, as I said with the Hardhats situation, it's about measuring the social response versus how much it's actually going to help. In this case, it's much more gauging what that social response will be versus, the positives and the negatives of that. I'm not saying that bringing back Kate Smith is going to impact the team on the ice as much as like bringing a Carter Hart back, but it's just a matter of whether you think more fans and significantly more fans will like it, or will there be a significantly more amount of fans who will find it offensive. You got to make those calls. Again, above my pay grade, Steve.
I don't make those. I'll make the call. Bring it back. Let's go. That documentary that we were just talking about, that actually got me back on like the Flyers train.
Wow,
And
that's
it was right.
impressive. I'm pretty sure it was the social media team that did that. So I will pass that along. You're
Yeah,
responsible at least for getting one fan back.
it did. That was right after the Phillies lost the 2022 World Series
Yeah.
that they put that on, and I was depressed. I was at those games. It was like the most fun I've ever had in a stadium in my whole life. Was that, like, that playoff atmosphere. And man, I was depressed when they lost the World Series. And then I watched that documentary and I'm like, oh, I'm watching the Flyers this year. And they got me like right through. And I've been watching, I would say, as many games as I can watch. I've been watching them ever since. And it's been fun. Like, I enjoy watching them either way. I think they've been playing hard. And they're not like, they're not bad to watch. Like, they're still a fun team to watch, regardless of, the talent level that they may have had in any of those years. And I'm excited to hear you say that there's reason for optimism moving forward.
Well, I think one of the reasons why you're back aboard is because of what I said, that the management team from top to bottom, Hilferty on down, has done a great job messaging. They have been upfront with the fans. I mean, the Flyers make the playoffs 2 years ago if they don't trade Sean Walker. I mean, they were that close to making.
I think you're right.
They took one of their top 4 defensemen away. Obviously, Carter left at that time as well. There were other things happening too, but they knew that getting a first-round pick for him was better for the long-term goal, and so they did it. And again, last year, Frost, Farabee, Lawton all got moved. I think that might have been the final straw for John Tortorella, even, who might have been ready to try to win now. But the Flyers, again, get a first-round pick for Scott Lawton. I mean, these are things you have to do as you're rebuilding. Now, I think we're moving, as Danny Briere has said, to another phase where it's more addition than subtraction. Not addition to the point where you're going out and getting 34-year-old free agents, but addition where you go out and get players to plug in now, to help now. And maybe we're moving closer toward the time where they go out and get a younger free agent. I do think that if you're to the point next year and guys by the name of McDavid and Eichel and Kaprizov and Kyle Connor are still unrestricted free agents, I do believe the Flyers will be players for those kind of players. So you move to another level. They're going to have the cap space. So that's where we're at. It's I think because you can see that the Flyers are saying they have a plan and they're following that plan, that it's much more fun as a fan to follow that and be with it and be a little more patient.
We're going to make the playoffs this year?
Well, I'm the wrong person to ask because I've said they'd make the playoffs the last 2 years. Should have 2 years ago. Yeah. Last year, I mean, their final save percentage was .872. Yeah. There is, now that's the NHL number, which includes empty net goals, which I think is kind of bogus. I don't know how goalie can't make a save on an empty net goal, but that's the official save percentage that they were at last in the NHL. And you just cannot, you cannot win with that number. So hopefully if they get saves this year, if Sam Harrison shows he's a number one, or he and Vladar with a 50-30 split or 45-35 split or whatever, or maybe who knows, one of the Russians comes up and plays better. I mean, if they get saves, I think they make the playoffs. I hate to simplify hockey that way. It is oversimplifying, because that's also saying everything else has to be where it is, and their power play has to be better than it was and has been. So bottom line is the Flyers, I will say, for the third straight year, should make the playoffs. But I've been wrong 2 years in a row. So what does that prediction mean? Absolutely nothing.
I'm taking it to the bank.
I do think the Zegras addition gives them the potential to have a much better power play. Michkov's going to, I think, take another step. Hopefully it's not a sophomore slump. Hopefully it's another step. And I do think that there's really Rick Tocchet, obviously his impact. There's real possibility that they can really improve. But, then you tell me that, and, as part of my prepping for the season, I'm doing a lot of research on teams around the NHL, and I go to the Eastern Conference and it's like, okay, who's going to miss? Are the Rangers going to miss again? Are the Devils going to slip? they probably might go up if Jack Hughes could ever stay healthy. Uh, who is going to fall out of the playoffs? The Islanders might be back in now. The Islanders are suddenly got some youth injected and they've got goaltending. Columbus is getting better. So I can tell you, sit here and say the Flyers should be better. They should make the playoffs, but it's tough to find 8 teams and include the Flyers in those 8 to make it out of the East too. So it'll be a dogfight. I hope they're competitive and in the running at least this year, and set themselves up for that huge summer next year.
You talk about Rick Tocchet. It's great to see him back in the building. Is he a better fit for the Flyers team, this Flyers team, than Tortorella?
I mean, John Tortorella did what he was supposed to do. He took a team that allegedly did not have a lot of good. He doesn't like to use the term culture himself, but he used to use the word standard, I believe. But whatever it is, atmosphere, culture, whatever, he turned that around. Through subtraction, through the way he drives the team, this team has become very difficult to play against. Effort's never an issue. And so he got that done. Rick Tocchet hopefully can take them to another level. I do think Torts got tired of the rebuild a little bit. He's never really come out and talked too much after he was let go, but some of the things he said before he was let go would give you that idea. But I have a lot of respect for John Tortorella and what he did here. So to say, is Toc a better fit? I don't know. Toc's a buddy of mine. I'm a little bit biased on this, but I think he's an outstanding head coach. I think there's going to be a little more communication with players, especially those players who don't look for communication themselves. Guys like Sean Couturier, who, the coach might have to reach out to them as opposed to expecting the player to go knock the coach's door down. And so I expect Sean Couturier, if he's healthy, to have a really good year this year. I expect some of the other veterans to as well. And then the young players, I expect Cam York to obviously feel better about things this year. He did not mesh well with Torts. So I do think we'll see improvements. The power play, Yogi Shafikovsky and some of the assistant coaches, Todd Reardon, some of these guys brought in, I think we should see some improvement there, especially if they run things more through Michkov. So when you put all that together, it's not just Toc, it's the assistants too. You put the whole staff together. I think the fit will be better, at least to take the next step. Torts might have been better than this coaching staff, though, to get the team from where it was to where it is now.
Yep. So with the new coaching staff, do they strip the players of like captain, assistant captain, or is he going to leave Couture? I would love to see a C on Travis Konecny's jersey. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, Couturier is the captain. You just have to be around the team to know this. The players respect him so much. I do believe Torts lost part of the team a little bit with how he handled Coots. He's quiet. You don't have to be a boisterous captain to be a good captain. Ray Bourque was a captain for many years. He didn't say a whole lot. There's Jonathan Toews, one of the best captains ever. He was not a talkative guy. So, that's not, you lead by example. You lead by talking when you have to sometimes. TK is the exact opposite. He's a more boisterous guy.
I love him.
But I certainly think A is written all over him, and there's others too. We'll see. I think they want to have one of the younger players part of that leadership group too. So we'll see. Travis Sanheim's become a leader too. So we'll see. It's a team that now has good leadership. That's partially due to Torts. Whether it was because they bonded against him or whatever, this team does have good leadership now. It's not necessarily one guy. It's a group. You hear that all the time. And I think they're in good stead there with the veterans they have now. And that the youngsters have grown up now in this system, except for the rookies this year, of course, that they have an idea of this. And so it should flow smoothly.
Speaking of leadership, how about Tippett, man? To me, he just seems like elite. Am I seeing things like he looks like he could really be like a top tier player in the NHL if he's not considered that already? I don't know what like the national I guess the national conversation is about the Flyers. I don't really listen to like the national radio when it comes to the NHL. Like I'm strictly Flyers. Am I nuts thinking that?
He has elite talent, Steve, and he has elite games, and he makes elite plays, which you'll see on the highlights. For Tip, I think it's about consistency. Just has to show that he can be consistent. I just think I've said it before. I think there's a 40 goal score in there somewhere, but he wasn't even close last year.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's got to stay healthy. Of course, he had a little injury last year, but it's more about that consistency. If he's consistent, he can be a hell of a player. And the Flyers have not been loaded at center. Maybe he just needs that playmaker. The one thing about Tip, though, he kind of generates his own offense. So I'm not sure how much, like Jet Luchenko is a tremendous playmaking center. I'm not sure how much a tremendous playmaking center is actually going to make Tip better, because Tip, a lot of his offense comes off of what he does, carrying the puck to the net or firing the puck. But I also saw last year from Tip some tremendous playmaking. He had some great assists last year. So he's got that in him, too. Love the guy. He's a superhuman being, coachable, team player. Just if he can find that consistency, he could take off, and he could score 40 goals. He's the kind of guy. Again, remember, if the Flyers' power play is mediocre,
Mm-hmm.
all right, 17th, 19th, 15th, all the numbers of these players go up. The 25 goal scorers become maybe 30 goal scorers. The guys who scored 30 in their career might push 40. Some of those 15 goal scorers become 20 goal scorers. They haven't had, remember, the last 4 years. Last year was their best power play, 30th. The 3 years before that, last. 3 straight years, they were last in power. So they're not getting any push offensively from their power play at all. And these players have put the numbers they put up. So they can put up better numbers, and those numbers will increase tremendously. If they not just if they get a great power play, they're going to take off. But if they just get a mediocre power play, middle of the pack, somewhere between 10 and 20 in the league, the numbers for this team offensively, individually, will change rapidly.
What's the problem with the power play? Like, can you is it scheme, or is it like attitude? Is it?
I mean, if I had an answer, I wouldn't be the broadcaster. I'd be the assistant coach making a lot more money than I'm making as a broadcaster. I think it's some of both. I mean, have they lacked elite talent? Maybe in the first year of that stretch, after they traded Giroux and they were just getting. But now, I mean, Michkov's elite as elite gets. He should be a tremendous power play performer. And Tyson Forster's a guy who should be able to fire and score on the power play. Tippett should be a guy who can score on the power play. Konechny already is. I've mentioned forwards. They haven't found that defenseman to run it from out high. They're trying Jamie Drysdale. He showed some signs last year. Cam York might get an actual try this year. I think he should. He ran a power play for one of the best world junior teams ever. He ran a power play in college. I think he can do it. We'll see if he gets a real crack at it. But I also think that it shouldn't matter as much who that guy is if they run the power play from down low through Michkov, who's so creative. Zegras is now part of the mix, so where does he fit in? So we'll see. But for me to pinpoint what the problem is with the power play, I couldn't give you one answer. Little bit scheme, little bit lacking that sharpshooter, maybe lacking that quarterback, but it's got to get better.
Well, it's the weirdest thing because they're like unbelievable shorthanded. And like their attitude when they're shorthanded.
They were really good 2 years ago. Last year, 20th with only 4 shorthanded goals. They weren't as good last year. But they'll I think that's another area where they can improve. I think when they really were good 2 years ago is when they were very aggressive on it. And you had Lawton and Konechny scoring shorthanded goals on the rush and things like that. So hopefully they can get back to that.
So you talk about you were talking about how you study the NHL. And I mean, one of one of those amazing things about what you do is your recall. You know every single player's name, the pronunciation of their name, and these are not players like Joe Smith and John Peters. These are just like gnarly Russian names, like unbelievable the way you're able to just pronounce them just on the spot, ready to go. There was a time, I'm going to tell you, there was a time when I was young and I was playing NHL. It was right around like the Eric Lindros, Rod Brindamore era. I'm playing NHL on PlayStation, and I knew I wanted to say almost every single player in the NHL because I played so much on the PlayStation.
Yeah.
And I always pretended I was you, and I would put the TV on mute, and I would announce the games as I played it. It was a lot easier because I knew where the puck was going because I was playing. But
that helps.
Yeah, how do you do it? Is it just studying?
Well, you did it. You just said it. I mean, when you know the players, and that's my job to know the players, you just do it. I mean, I've been asked that question a lot, Steve. I don't know if it's God-given or what, but I've just always, from the day I first did a hockey game in 1985, really 1986 was the first time I did a professional hockey game. I just call what I see. The names, it takes work. Some of these pronunciations are moving targets. These players change their pronunciations, but you do your best with it. There's always, Nedeljkovic, the goaltender. I've always struggled with that. Well, there was a game where he played where he was always just the goalie. I just said, Detroit goalie makes the save because I just couldn't get it out. I just couldn't. It wouldn't come out. So there are tough ones. There are ones I struggle with, but it's my job to do that. So I work at it. I take pride in it, and hopefully, I do a decent enough job at it. As far as actually calling the game, it's just I see it, I call it. When I was doing the Phillies for 14 years, I was often asked, which sport do I like more and which one's tougher, and which one I like more, I'd always say I like both of them equally. They're opposites, but I love the pace and the intensity of hockey, and I love the marathon nature of baseball and the slow developing of the stories and just the sounds of the game and so forth. But I loved both equally. But baseball was by far the tougher because baseball, you have to be watching so many different things that are happening. People say nothing happens in a baseball game, but actually, while nothing's happening physically, mentally, a gazillion things are happening. The pitcher and catcher are figuring out the next pitch. The middle infielders are figuring out which way to shift. The outfielders are figuring out which way to shift. Does the third baseman come in on the grass or stay back? Where does the first baseman play? Is there something going on in the bullpen? Are they warming up a pitcher? First base coach giving, if there's a base runner, is he going? Is he not? If he is going, how does that affect the defense? There's just so many things going on. And as an announcer, you kind of have to be in on that. So I would find when I would fill in for Scott Fransky and do 9 innings of radio, exhausted after a game. It's like, I've been thinking for 3 hours straight with no breaks. Hockey, it's kind of like playing it. And by the way, that's how baseball players have to be too. They have to be thinking about the next move, which way to shift and so forth. So as a player in baseball, you have to be thinking ahead. And as a announcer in baseball, you have to be thinking ahead. As a player in hockey, if you're thinking on the ice, you're done. Mm-hmm. You can't. It's too fast. It has to be muscle memory from practice and instinct, right? And it's the same as a hockey announcer. I can't be thinking about a guy's name and looking down to it. It has to just be there. Instinctive, see it, call it. So playing the games, similar to announcing the games, but I found baseball to be tougher because you can think yourself into so much trouble. Whereas just seeing it and calling it, hopefully the mouth cooperates and you the tongue cooperates and you say what you want to say. Occasionally it doesn't, but it's much more just free flow and it just happens. Whereas baseball, you have to think the whole time.
Is it hard for you to turn the pace down a little bit when you were doing the baseball as opposed to hockey?
Yeah, I had a lot of fans tell me, you sound like a hockey announcer doing a baseball game. You're so up tempo, so maybe I didn't slow it down.
I used to love listening to you on the radio.
Yeah, maybe I didn't slow it down enough, but it's the game kind of establishes the pace. And I love that about baseball, that casual pace. I would have loved, while I was still working, the pitch clock, believe me, because there were some games that just slowed to a crawl. back before the pitch clock. But it's still, even with the pitch clock, has a kind of a flow to it and just a slow meandering. And baseball is a conversation. And here's a swing and a drive,
Mhm.
whereas hockey is swing and a drive all the time. It's constantly in play. Then the puck goes out of play, and you can let your analyst do his thing. But yeah, I mean, I would probably say there was some struggle with that early on, but I had conquered it. 14 years was a long time, and thoroughly enjoyed doing baseball. It was I don't miss it. However, I got a year off, not to my own doing, during the pandemic,
Mhm.
and I enjoyed the summer so much. I mean, I have a pool that I got to actually use, and I went to golf. I got to golf again. I got to go on vacations longer than 4 days, longer than the All-Star break, and I would not have gone back even if I was asked. It was a good thing for me, and probably is extending my Flyers career, because I have more energy now for the Flyers than I did when I was doing both sports, where it was pretty much 365, working all year. So it was one of those things that I wasn't happy it happened. It wasn't a great thing for my wallet, but it certainly was good for my well-being and for my broadcast career with the Flyers. So in the long run, it was something that I'm pretty happy has happened, and enjoy my summers now.
Yeah, your well-being is certainly an important thing. So you have this
Sometimes you don't
broadcast.
even realize it, Steve. I didn't realize I was getting burned out. I was just like a machine. I was, okay, it's April. I'm doing the end of hockey into baseball, and then the Flyers will get eliminated many times back then in the playoffs, and
Mhm.
then get eliminated. Okay, next day I'm just a baseball announcer for the next 4 months. And then back in September, October, it's back to doing both for a month and a half. And then once the Phillies would get eliminated or their season come to an end, okay, now I'm just a hockey guy. At least with hockey, I'd have days off. Baseball is just, it's
Oh, it's
such
nonstop.
grind. It's unbelievable mental grind that it's just every day. I think I counted one year without the All-Star break, taking the All-Star break out of it, there were like 11 days off. And it's just like such a grind. So I didn't realize it because I love the game so much, and I love the Phillies, and I love what I was doing. But that grind was probably getting to me, and somebody else made the decision for me, but it definitely helped.
Yeah, yesterday was one of those rare days off for the Phillies, and I didn't know what to do with myself. So I
Yeah, I'm
had to.
wondering what that broadcast crew did in Milwaukee, actually. But anyhow,
Why? What happened in Milwaukee?
they had a day off in Milwaukee.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, isn't that
They
weird? They
played
had a
there.
day off in the middle of
They
the
played there
series.
Monday and
I
had
thought that was
yesterday
strange.
off. But if I don't know if LA's on this trip or not. He doesn't take too many of the trips anymore. But if he is on the trip, I don't know what damage he could do in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I heard T
It's a fun
Mac.
town, Milwaukee. Actually, very underrated town.
I heard T Mac say on Monday, "Oh, we'll see you guys on Wednesday," and I'm like, "Wednesday? I'm
Yeah,
like, what do you mean
very
Wednesday?"
strange.
Yeah. So I got my all my sports. Like I had to cram it all into today. I'm getting to talk to you, go home, watch the Phillies, and then tomorrow, the moment we've all been waiting for.
Yes,
Get to watch
go
the
birds, as they
Yeah,
say.
go birds.
I don't think they'll have any trouble tomorrow.
Well, it's going to be a long wait. I'll tell you that. And then Friday's going to be tough to wake up, but that's all right. It's another story. So you have your broadcasting
good
school.
problem.
Yeah. Jim Jackson Broadcasting School. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. Is that new? Is that something you've been doing for a long
That
time?
came about once I had my summers off. I had always mentored kids and looked at clips and talked with them and so forth. And I have several that I've won this on CBS now. So it's awesome, to see. It's a great feeling to work with these people and see them progress in the business. But once I lost the Phillies job, I had that time, and I wanted to figure out a way, in addition to getting involved with Alex Lemonade Stand Foundation, which is a way I wanted to give back and is near and dear to my heart. Now being on the board there is huge. But I also wanted to do something broadcast wise. So I developed this broadcasting. It's not really a school. It's basically a program where I do 3 one-on-one Zooms with you, and we talk about everything. I tailor make it to what you want to do in the business. I will go over your clips. I will offer you a shadow of me doing a Flyer broadcast if I think it's going to help you if you're in the area. And I'm your mentor for as long as you want me after you do the program. And it's been really good. I'm up to like 130 or 135 people since 2020 that have done it, and it's just very rewarding. I now have so many people that have done it though that I get a lot of emails from these people that I got, keeping up with them.
Yeah.
I almost need help, but it's been very rewarding, and looking forward to continuing it.
Is it all age brackets, or is it
All age brackets. I've had a 12-year-old. I've had a 63-year-old.
wow.
The
That's unbelievable.
63-year-old was a podcaster, but podcasting is now considered broadcasting. So he wanted to do it, and but I've had a couple others in their 50s. I think the median age would probably be in the early 20s to the guys and gals in college or just getting out of college. But several high school kids, some high school kids that are now in college, and a couple high school kids that are getting out of college. And then the young pros, those that are out trying to find their niche in their mid to late 20s and early 30s. That would be the median age, but I've had several 40s, 50s, and a couple 60s and a couple teens as well, 12, 13-year-olds.
Well, good for you. That sounds really rewarding. It sounds like
yeah, JimJacksonBroadcasting.com. You can go. That's my website. You can go on there, look for the coaching clip, or just email me at jjflyer1@aol.com. And if you're interested, and we'll figure it out. I obviously do a lot more of it in the summer, but I do continue it during the season. Just a little harder fitting in the sessions around the schedule, but I am able to do it, and we keep it going. I usually get one or two per month during the season, whereas it's more than that, obviously, in the summer.
Well, I'm not going to keep you much longer, Jim. I told you, I think I told you in our email group, I was at the game that Michael Remberg sliced his face wide open from corner to corner. And that was the most memorable thing I've ever been to at a hockey game. You've been to way more hockey games than me. So I want to ask you, what's your most memorable thing that happened?
That's interesting. I mean, from a hockey standpoint, it was the 5 overtime game in Pittsburgh in 2000. I mean, it's still the longest game in the modern history of the NHL. So to be part of that kind of history, the shootout win over the Rangers in 2010. I mean, how often is it going to come down to a shootout against your arch rivals with one of the best shootout goalies on the planet in net for the Rangers and Lundqvist? And, one team goes on, the other team goes home, and the good guys won. So that one, the comeback against the Bruins that same year was also historic. But, a moment, there's two that really weren't like great Flyer moments, perhaps, but were great moments anyway. One was the alumni game around the 2012 Winter Classic. It was the Rangers Flyers. And as I told you, I grew up a Rangers fan. And it was at Citizens Bank Park. I was at the time working for the Phillies. It felt like this is your life, Jim Jackson. I mean, I'm at Citizens Bank Park, my home for one of my jobs. The Rangers had guys like Ron Duguay and Dave Maloney and Ron Greshner playing, or guys I watched as a kid as a Rangers fan. And then you had Lindros, LeClaire, and all the Flyers that I'd called early in my career, as well as Bernie Parent, Joe Watson, and the guys I had done a book about. And I was calling the game on national TV. So it was kind of a surreal moment that I'll always treasure. And then the other one was a preseason game. I wasn't even working, but it was in 2001, and it was in September, and 9/11 had just happened. And after the second period, they put President Bush's speech up on the Jumbotron as he was addressing Congress, and the speech carried over. They at first cut the speech off, and the crowd booed, so they put it back up, and the teams had made their way back out, and the teams kind of settled in. I still remember Mark Recchi and Brian Boucher leaning on the net, looking up at the Jumbotron as the president is telling us, we are going to get these people, and the crowd roaring with everything he said. And then the speech finally ends, and they end the game and have the teams shake hands. It was tied, I think, and just had them shake hands, forget the third period, bigger things going on right now. That is a moment I'll never forget as well. And there are other ones. I mean, my longtime producer Brian Cooper's final game 2 seasons back, which also was Coates's final game. He was on radio. Those kind of games. That was also Keith Jones's last game, but none of us knew at the time. So there are other things that come up. Doing a game right after Oscar Lindblom had been diagnosed with cancer was particularly tough. Having to do that open, I remember second toughest thing I've ever done. Third now. The other one that was up there was having to MC the event for Johnny Gaudreau last year at his practice rink down Hollydale, which was excruciating. The family right behind me, and that whole my son played for Johnny's dad and skated with Johnny in the summer, and it was just that was a tough one. And let's see, there's the Oscar Lindblom, and what's the third one that was my toughest moment? Oh, of course, doing the pregame show the day Harry Callis passed away. So those were all gut wrenching, so memorable for maybe the wrong kind of reasons. But hey, I've been doing this now for 32 years, Steve. I could sit here and we could do another 2 hours. I could go over great moments.
Let's do it.
And that's from a franchise that has not won a Stanley Cup in those 32 years, but they've still had some great moments. And I've had a blast calling them. I've been blessed and honored and privileged, really, to do it for as long as I have.
Yeah, give me chills thinking about that 9/11 game, man. You gotta love hockey. Gotta love hockey.
Sports in general, football was really great for the healing process, as you remember that year, as well as baseball when Bush went and threw out the first pitch at Yankee Stadium. I mean, they're just sports. That's the positive of sports right there. Right? It's the ability to lift us up.
Jim, a huge Tuna Blue thank you, man. I thank you so much for your time. Continued success. It's been an awesome privilege to talk to you, listen to you, announce the Flyers my whole life. This has been just an awesome experience. Thank you so much.
Well, Steve, my pleasure. I always like talking Flyers and talking hockey, so it truly was my pleasure.
All right, man. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good.
Peace.